You are listening to a very special episode of the International Commission podcast. And I say that every time, but this time we have the best, most exciting, most dynamic and awesome guest that we've ever had on the show. I am Bucky Elliott, the media director here at International Commission. And today, my guest and co-host is a multi-talented professional. She's an educator, a private tutor, a chef, a success coach, a chauffeur, an accountant, a seamstress, housekeeper. She's a full-time missional mom and ministry spouse. This is my wife, Kim Elliott.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for letting me strong-arm you into doing this.
You're welcome.
She's very, very excited to be here today, as you can tell. But this conversation, I think, will be really eye-opening and interesting to at least some people, because today you'll get a peek behind the curtain of what happens back at home base, when there's one family member that is engaged in mission work full-time and ministry full-time. And back at home, there are kids to raise and things to take care of and budgets to keep and people to feed and clothe and educate, communities to engage in, and all the other things that have to happen to keep that mission going and to really support that person who is on the mission field full time. What does the mission look like at home? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Did you know?
Let's talk about what it takes to raise mission-minded kids, because I think when a lot of people think about the ministry spouse, the one that is at home or that's not engaged in the field ministry full-time, you're still on mission. You're still a part of the ministry. And one of your main jobs is to help to raise kids that also love the Lord and see their part in the Great Commission if they become believers, which we pray and hope they all do. But we want to raise kids that share the values that we have of loving the Lord and loving people and making Him and His mission a priority in their life, the trajectory of their life. We can't 100% guarantee that, but that's our job to kind of guide them in that direction.
Absolutely.
And so how do you do that exactly? What does that look like?
I think for us, it's just like, so we homeschool. So a lot of our curriculum is biblically based, points back to Jesus. So like our history, we're looking not only at like the history of the world, but how does that line up with the timeline of the Bible and Christianity and the beginning of Christianity and Jesus's ministry and all of that, how that lines up with world events. And then we study different countries and different cultures, and we make that just a normal part of our family dynamic and makeup, is to learn more about people around the world and what life is like for them and how we can pray for them and ways we can minister or that other people do minister in those countries. So many times we've studied about places that don't have a Bible translation. So then we pray for that to come to fruition, that those countries will get Bibles. And I think really just as a mom and dad, we lead by example as well. And they see us pray and they see their dad going. They hear the stories that dad brings back from the office, and we share that with them. And of course, we're just trying to teach them the best we can about Jesus, the way we would when we go evangelize to other people. And God's great commission is to share His love and His word and the gospel message with those who have not heard.
I remember when I was a little kid, like in first and second grade, and at our church we had the Mission Friends program.
Yeah.
And we got to hear stories about missionaries overseas and what they did, and about different countries and cultures. And I was interested in that because, we were a military family, and I just was interested in other cultures. But the fact that there were people going and serving and helping people and telling other people about Jesus, like full time as their job, I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I never really pictured myself doing that full time. I guess because I thought that missionaries have to have this audible voice from God telling them that they're going to go and do that or whatever. And even as I grew up, I've always been interested in missions, but never, I don't know, except for that one spell, the first time we went to Haiti.
Yeah.
So this is part of our story. The very first time that Kim and I went to Haiti, we were newlyweds. We've been married for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Went to Haiti with some friends. Long story how the connection happened, but it began a ministry relationship that continued even today.
Yeah.
But man, it wrecked our entire worldview, our trajectory, our perspective in life, and all of our priorities and desires changed, and we just wanted to be a part of sharing Jesus' love with the nations, with people in other places, and we just wanted to stay there. And we thought we had this idealistic motive to just stay there. We just won't go back home. We're poor there anyways.
Right.
Might as well do the same thing here and make an impact for the kingdom. But we were young and naive, and the Lord knew that we weren't ready for full-time ministry at that point, and so that didn't happen. But so we had the fervor to do that. But I still, anyways, I did not grow up aspiring to become a missionary because I didn't know that was an option really. I didn't know that normal people who say yes to the things God's calling you to, that's really what missionaries are. But if we can give our kids that picture of the world and that perspective of the world that I feel like it took us a long time to really fully grasp, if they can have that when they're young and they serve to choose the Lord, then the trajectory of their life can be oriented toward the Great Commission.
I guess to that point, I would say we also go and serve at a very missionally minded church. So I know in our children's ministry, they do mission Sundays where they talk about different types of ministries and missions that our church supports, and they have projects for the kids to help them feel engaged in those ministries. Sometimes it's collecting things to send somewhere. Sometimes it's writing notes or letters or praying over a ministry. Or I know we're going to do Operation Christmas Child again, and really involving the kids in those kinds of opportunities to help them become aware of the ministries that our church is supporting. Another thing is we've used tools like, I don't remember what those prayer cards.
Yeah, there's the VIA Families has a lot of resources. VIA is another missions organization. They're a training equipping organization for churches, helping people see their role in the Great Commission, which is kind of what we're talking about. And so they have a lot of these family resources. So one of those is these prayer cards.
Yeah, so there's prayer cards. We have a book, Window on the World.
Window on the World. Yeah.
I highly recommend that book. And
that's from Operation World, right?
I think
Isn't
so.
I
think so. The Window on the World book has like the different countries, and like it'll tell a story from the perspective of a child in that country, normally a Christian child in that country, and what it would look like in their day-to-day life to be a Christian in that country. And then I'll have some statistics about like the population and the languages and the religions and government. And then it'll have like a section where it's like how you can pray for this country. And it has just about every country in the world or region in there. And then there's some sections that talk about different worldviews. So like they talk about the main religions in those countries. Well, in the back, there's a section about each religion and how it compares to Christianity and how it compares to our beliefs, so that when you're talking about what these people believe, the kids get an idea of what that looks like and how it compares to what they believe.
I think it's an important thing for them to get early on in life, and especially in our world now, because it's so much more global, and our kids have very limited internet access, but when they grow up and they do discover the wider world, they're going to be bombarded with, and they really already are. I realize they already are bombarded with other messages, other worldviews and values all the time. And so I just love being able to equip them with what's true, what's not true, and how to know the difference early on. But also just to understand other people and their worldviews.
Absolutely.
and to be able to approach them in love and care, but with some understanding when you're sharing the gospel with someone that has different beliefs, to have some understanding of where they're coming from or how you can communicate with them. So we've done things like going to other cultural festivals in town, like going to Hindu holiday festivals, which a lot of those are kind of secularized, but they're from Hindu traditions, and just kind of learning about those. We've gone to a Hindu temple, done a tour with the kids, and they kind of learned about that, and then we talked a lot about the things that they believe and what the Bible says, things like that. And I'm much more extroverted, and so I like to bring guests home and teach them about some of our traditions and our faith and the holidays, and learn about them. But I think some of the kids like that, and some of them are.
Some are more like me and they're very shy, and it's hard. But
And you got to have kind of a good balance of knowing that some people are going to be more outgoing and want to branch out and learn in practical ways, and some would rather, study and
yes,
learn. So
I'm thinking one kid in particular. I'd probably just read about it.
it's funny because some of the international students, so we're close to a big university and I'm connected to a couple ministries that reach out to international students, and so we've had people from India, from Iran, even here, and the kids still talk about that.
They do.
Visit,
They do.
which is kind of funny. But so, and then there's lots of other opportunities, down into Dallas and stuff that we've every once in a while been a part of, and there are more opportunities we could take more advantage of. Like there's there's an outreach that's part of a church near downtown Dallas that reaches out to refugees, and so we went to a World Refugee Day event to kind of welcome people. That was a long time ago.
That was
like
when
when
we
we first
first
moved here. So how have you seen some results from that? Do you think any of our kids really have captured that and either are interested in learning more about the world and how they can be involved in the Great Commission, or are involved? If you're going to do that,
I mostly see that with our oldest. So she's gone on several mission trips. Her first when she was 5 to Haiti with us, which I still can't believe we did, but we did. We took her to Haiti at 5.
why would you take your 5-year-old kid to Haiti?
We took her because we really believed in the mission that we were doing there, and the ministry friendships, not just partnerships, but friendships that we built there. We wanted our friends in Haiti to meet her, and we wanted to be able to expose all our kids. At the time, we had 3. We left 2 back home with grandparents, and we just really wanted our life, our heart, our family's heartbeat to be missional, and we wanted our family to be part of what we were doing in Haiti.
Really, I guess if we had a long-term plan, it was just to continue doing that, and taking them as we felt like they were old enough, mature enough, and life changed.
Life changed a lot. Yeah. I don't know how much she remembers that trip, but I do know that it was formative for her.
Yeah.
Like, I think she did get a lot from that. She was exposed to a culture very different from her own, and a way of life. I think she came back with a better appreciation of what she had, and
just an awareness that the rest of the world is not like the United States.
Right. Not that she remembers exact things that happened, but it kind of formed her view at a young age of the world a little bit. And now she's gone on several other trips with our church and with her dad. She's gone to Mexico, I think a year and a half ago.
And she loved that.
Oh my goodness.
She did her fundraising. She was really excited about it and prayed a lot. She was there. She was really engaged and loved the kids. And she was all in. It was really fun to see that.
It was really fun to hear her stories when she came back. And she's been working on learning Spanish, which she kind of started trying to do as we moved to Texas. And we were just like, we're going to be more exposed to Spanish.
Yeah.
We would love to be able to communicate with anyone we ran across. But she's really taken that to heart. And then one of her biggest takeaways was like, I could communicate with them in their language, and it was so fun. So now she's continuing her study of Spanish, and she's like blown us out of the water.
Yeah,
in terms of
she's advancing a lot faster than me. I've been trying to work on Spanish for years.
I mean, and it is easier for younger kids to learn a language, but like she's got a passion for it. She doesn't know what she wants to do when she grows up, but she talks about ministry a lot, and I think she will do some form of ministry, whether it's missions or working in children's ministry or something with her art. But I think I see the fruit of all the teaching her about the world coming out now. She's 14, and a freshman, and she's starting to think about the future, and you can just see her heart and her life changing rapidly. And I see that heartbeat for others and sharing God's word and being in God's word really shining through her now at this age. I think with the other kids, it's harder at the ages they're at to know how much of an impact our lifestyle has had on them. Other than I know they know more about the world than I ever did at their age in a practical way. Like, of course, you study history or whatever, or geography and all that. But I feel like they actually get to see some of this in a more practical way than you do just reading a textbook.
Yeah. And when you learn about it in school or even from Joshua Project or Window on the World and things like that, it still seems far away, or it seems like you're reading about history, even though you know it's happening now. It's far away. It's separate from us.
Yeah.
But because we've had the blessing of being able to expose them to that knowledge, but also to some experience, I think that has made it a little more real.
Whether it's their experience or you bringing home your experiences and your pictures, and them seeing Dad in these places, or seeing Dad's friends in these places, or Dad knowing people's names and being able to say, that's so-and-so who lives in this place that you're hearing
and I
about.
love to tell them stories about other people, especially other kids, and how they live their lives, because I just think that helps make it more real. That's one of the things I love about some of those resources, like the prayer cards or the Window on the World. There are stories of other children, and what their lives are really like what they have to do day to day, even just to survive, or what their worldview, what their religion is like, and the things they believe, and for them to realize that that's real, and it's other kids are growing up very differently from how they do. But the reality is a lot of kids are growing up differently from them, even right here where we live.
It's true.
I just mean that our lifestyle and our priorities are different from a lot of people in our area. We live in North Texas, which is a very affluent area in a lot of pockets. There's quite a mix of economic, status and standard of living and stuff. But this is one of the most affluent areas in the country. And so our family, and I can just speak for us, what we have been called to and what our heartbeat, what our priority is serving the Lord in his kingdom, and to work with a ministry where we raise support for our living. And so that's a very different way to live from really anybody around us. Now we do have a network of other friends that are also in ministry and raise support, so it's good to have that camaraderie, but it's pretty rare still.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we also already, before we were in full-time ministry, we already had the value of simplicity, because God put that on our heart, I think, in Haiti, and then with the church community that we were a part of then. Really valued simplicity and living simply that others may simply live.
Yes.
And so we just have held on to that. We try to keep things simple. We are content with simple, but also I've realized in a practical way that the more you've got, the more responsibility you have, and we just don't need any more responsibilities anyways. So we've got plenty of that going on. But because of that, our kids notice sometimes that our family is different. One, that we're different, and just there's things that we don't consume, food-wise and media-wise, and I don't know, otherwise.
Yeah.
That just we have just a different standard, and that's lifestyle. And that's just as a Christian family, that's what our convictions are. But yeah, our lifestyle is so different too. Things that we don't have that other people have, or places we don't go, or things we don't drive, or I don't know, so on and so on, that other people around us have. And on one hand, we just don't want to because we're not fancy.
Right.
But then the other hand, we just like that's not what we're called to, and we don't have the budget to sustain those things and don't really want it either. The Lord takes care of us.
He provides.
It's just
absolutely.
we're an anomaly to be a single income family with a stay-at-home mom on one ministry income in our area.
That's true.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah. So our kids definitely compare what we have to what others have still. Like, and I think part of that is like they haven't had the heart change of like, this is our choice to live,
Yeah, we do
live
this on
this way.
purpose.
And I think we could do a better job, I guess, of encouraging them and why we choose to live this lifestyle. I don't know if they know that we could.
Yeah, I was going to say
have-
that we, with our skills, with our education, we could have a very different life, but we choose not to.
Right.
And why is that worth it? You know,
I think it's worth it. Here's the Sunday school answer, is because it's what God has called us to, and obeying him and is always worth it, and following the path he's set for us is always worth it. We've seen it in the fruits of the people that you've been able to minister to. We've seen it in the way he's provided for us. It's kind of one of those things. Sometimes it does get hard, and we have to look back and say, all right, this is where I saw God in the past. And so I know he'll continue to be faithful going forward. I think there's a huge blessing in that we're not relying on our own strength to have what we need. We are relying on the Lord probably more than, I wouldn't say most people, but most of our friends, because most of the world is poorer than we are. But there are literally times where we're like, I don't know where that's coming from, but I know the Lord's got it. Yeah. And then he does. He provides. Yeah. And sometimes in the craziest of ways where...
Yeah, a lot of times it's a surprise. Someone will just show up with something that we need and didn't ask for. Or...
Yeah. I think, too, like, if it was easy, we could get complacent in our faith.
Oh, yeah. Or prideful.
Or, yeah.
Look what we've done. Look what we're doing.
Right. And I think that is, in and of itself, is a blessing, because it draws us back deeper in our faith, deeper and closer to the Lord.
I think the fact that neither of us is really the breadwinner, because our money comes from other believers who willingly donate what the money they have earned to partner with us and support us. And so we totally see that the Lord is providing for us. Now, I mean, that's true of everyone. If you are earning money, I hope you support a missionary, first of all, but I hope you also realize that God is providing that for you, because he's given you the ability to work. He's given you that opportunity to work and all those things. But for us, we just there's another layer of dependence there on the Lord, because I'm not going and selling anything. I'm not generating revenue somehow for some company. I'm doing the work that I do, but all of my salary comes from other people that we have invited to partner with us, and we're depending on how successful they are, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. And then it takes you outside of yourself a little bit too, because now we have the opportunity to pray for our partners and what's going on in their life, and how we can come alongside them in faith that they will continue to be able to support us and to provide for their needs, for their families, because it's not just our family being supported, like their families are being supported, whatever else their ministries they're into. We really love when partners can go on mission with Bucky. I think that's so cool for them to get to go and do one of his trips with him. So that's happened a couple times, and that's pretty cool.
It's always bad, because I can cast vision, I can tell the stories, which of course I love to do. That's a main part of my job. I love telling the stories, and I do think that strikes people's hearts. But there's nothing like going and being part of it. It's like an automatic, vision.
Absolutely, and like, I think too, in the vein of like behind the curtain, what people don't see. I think a lot of times people think they're supporting his ministry at IC, which they are. That's what he raises support for. But really, that supports our
our whole
families
family and all
ministry.
the things we're talking about doing.
That allows me to stay home and teach the kids. We homeschool all 5, and they're all at various levels. So we got high school down to kindergarten, and it allows us to serve at our church instead of going to get another part-time job or something.
Yeah.
It allows us to sometimes do those family missional opportunities in our community. It allows him to work at IC and do all of that stuff. So,
and it allows me to have the time to go take my daughter to Mexico with my church,
right,
things like that.
Right. So when you support a missionary, you're not just supporting like one singular mission. You're supporting all that they're doing, like and all of the ministry that they're doing, and the story that God is writing through them, which is beautiful. Our heartbeat is just to do God's work, whatever He has for us.
Yeah, and this is my specific assignment, and IC's the organization I work for, and so that support all flows through there.
Absolutely.
And to us. But I love to share in my newsletters to our partners all that our family is doing and involved in, because that's what people are supporting. And so that's why I want to do this episode too, is just to show you what else is there going on besides what you normally hear about.
Right.
And if you're following us on social media, you see the stories from the field. You don't necessarily see what's happening in the lives of the leaders involved or staff involved. That's why we like to do this and give you that look behind the curtain. But even broader than that is the families of all of those people and what's happening. And so your impact, if you're a giver, a prayer, a goer, is way bigger than you think it is, because it's equipping and enabling, empowering my whole family to be engaged in the kingdom in different ways.
And we have other like ministries that we support through our so like I feel like God's economy, right? Like the kingdom economy, like it's just like grows and grows, and He multiplies like the fish and loaves, and the impact that being a partner with the missionary has. You won't see this side of heaven, probably the full impact.
You'll never know everything that it accomplishes. I mean, we won't either.
Yeah,
really.
we don't. Yeah.
But we get to see the day to day, and we have all the normal family struggles that anyone might. We have other ones that are unique, and really only other people involved in this kind of can identify with that. We're also an adopted family, and so that's another unique layer of our life. But we have a community at church of other adoptive and foster families that we can connect with on a unique way, and we understand things about each other no one else does, so that's kind of similar. But also it's another way that we have learned how God provides, and we can trust Him. And so times do get scary sometimes. Times get really hard sometimes. We are grieving several family members we've lost in the last few years, and it's been a really hard time. We've had things happen to the house, things happen to vehicles. We've lost some supporters and working on raising support again. And just lots of things happen, but we've just learned not to worry or wallow around in anxiety and worry and debilitating grief, because we know our God, and we know that He's for us, and we know that He comes through because of Scripture, of course.
Absolutely.
I mean, we know that, and we know Him, but we also just have this history of times we've seen Him bring us out of hopelessness time and time again. And we just know that He's going to. We know that His promises are true, like Matthew chapter 6. If you seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, everything will be added. That's not a maybe. It is true. And we've seen it true over and over again.
He's good on His promises.
Yeah.
For sure. And whenever there's a time that we feel like things are tight, I never ever worry, like, am I going to be able to feed my kids? I've never had that worry. And that's not something that everyone can say in the world. So that's a blessing. I think we look back and count our blessings and like, yeah, it was tight, but look, we never once missed a meal.
Yeah. Man, when I have meetings with supporters, or I'm just talking to other people, and they ask about, raising support, and so many people will say things like, oh man, and I can't believe you do that. Or they say, oh man, I don't know how you do that. Or wow, that's so hard. Or man, that's so noble. The reality is it's a privilege. We've really come to see it as a privilege because of all these advantages that we've just told you about, that really it just helps our faith so much. And the fact is, it really kind of Raising support is a big job, but I don't really feel like it's my responsibility. The results are not my responsibility. But also, I don't depend on me, and that kind of takes the pressure off.
Right.
Like, I know that if support is down, I'm not failing. It's just, you know,
Right.
the results are up to the Lord, and the provision's totally up to Him. And I feel like that's just another layer of faith that He's built into our life that I don't know if I would have that working at a film studio or something.
Right.
You know, because that industry changes a lot too, and
Right.
turnover is high, and people come and go, and I mean, whatever, companies tank. And if I was doing purely freelance work, that's all on me.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like it's really got a lot of advantages that we've had to learn, but it's true. All right, so here's another question that people ask me a lot. Does your wife get to go? So when I'm on the field, when I'm with other participants that go on mission trips with us, a lot of people ask this. Oh, so does your wife ever get to go on trips with you? And what's the answer?
No.
And why not?
Because someone's going to take care of the 5 kids at home.
Yeah. So next time you ask me, does my wife get to go? I'm going to say, thank you for volunteering to babysit my 5 children for 2 weeks so that she can come with me. Because yes, we would love to be able to do that again. But at this life stage, it's just pretty difficult.
It's hard. And it's not even that just finding care for the 5 kids. Like, they have, some of them have therapies and things that
all week long.
We have to take them to. And some of them just can't handle being without a parent. So if you did want to offer, like, some of them need a mom or dad with them.
Yeah, we might need you to have some training if you're going to.
Well, for bedtime and things like that. They just, some deal with anxiety and worries, and they just aren't ready for that separation, because we have a huge age span. If it was our older kids, they'd probably be fine, but the younger ones still need mom and dad. But all that to say, I do get to go on trips sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
If he's home and he keeps the kids and does the dad thing, then sometimes I get to go do missions. And I definitely have a heart for missions as well. Right now, my main mission field is raising my kids and at home with them. But I went to Guatemala in December of 2009, came home in January 2020, and then COVID hit, and I got to be the one to be like, I was the last one out of the country for like a really long time. So, like you were saying last night, like sometimes you play those board games and they're like, the last person to travel gets to go first. And I was like, I finally get to go first.
Yeah, it's almost always me. So she gets a turn.
Yeah.
But I think as the kids get older as well, we'll be able to have more opportunities to do that. Maybe shorter term things in Mexico or around here, or just as they get older, we may be able to leave them or kind of split them between caregivers or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to be able to take some of our kids with me more.
Yes.
And that'll be a really cool thing. Or she'll be able to take them and just kind of give some of them that experience that Ella's gotten to have.
Yes.
Our oldest. And
I think I look forward to doing some more family mission trips. IC's doing more opportunities within the States.
Yeah.
And so I look forward to being able to do like a whole family gets to go and participate. I think that'll be really great. I think we might have a year or two of maturing for our younger kids to really be ready for something like that. But it's not that we won't do trips together. It'll happen. It's not our time right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of a life stage.
So I look forward to going back on missions with him. That was like the start of our marriage and really the heartbeat of before we had kids and when we only had a couple at home. Yeah.
Are there places you won't let me take the kids?
Probably.
I've been going to the Middle East and some stands lately, and so those might not be a great place to take younger kids.
No. I am a somewhat overprotective mom, but I think that's kind of natural for a mom anyways. So I have let go some, and trying to like, okay, Lord, they're not really mine, they're yours. But yeah, I look forward to them getting to be with Dad for their first trips or whatever. They have opportunities through church sometimes, but it was really cool. Like Ella's first out of the country trip was with her dad, and that I feel like is really cool.
Yeah, it's a special thing. I think our church does some overseas trips with even students.
Yeah.
And so that may be an opportunity to have. But I love being able to take them for their first international experience. I think it's a cool thing. Speaking of international experiences, we've got another segment, Weird.
You're really weird.
So what we're going to talk about on Weird is, what was the weirdest meal, or just what are some of the weirdest meals you remember having on the mission field?
Our first trip to Haiti, it was my first trip like out of the country. Besides, like, fun fact, I lived in Cuba for a time, but that was on American base. So
she lived in Guantanamo Bay, y'all.
I did when I was real little. So besides that, which was very Americanized, Haiti was my first trip out of the country, and newly wed and young and didn't know much of the world. And I remember at the hotel that we stayed at, we went down for breakfast and they gave us a plate of noodles
noodles
and some ketchup.
Yep.
And that was an amazing breakfast. And I was like,
yeah, they were really excited.
They were very excited.
The
to
lady
get
at
to
the
us.
hotel was very excited. And, stand there and watch you and see if you enjoy it. And we're
Yeah.
like,
And it wasn't so much that it's weird. Like, I like spaghetti noodles. I like ketchup. It was.
Do you like spaghetti? Do you like ketchup?
How about
spaghetti ketchup? Ketchup spaghetti.
Yeah, for breakfast.
Yeah, that was the main kicker.
Yeah,
for breakfast. What?
It was breakfast. And I was like, this is how we're starting our day. Like, okay, I think going into that trip, I really didn't have any expectations for food. I didn't really, like, prepping. I didn't think, oh, what are we going to eat? Or
I had no idea what to expect either.
Now, anytime I go on a trip, I'm like, I wonder, I'm going to do some research about what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked. I don't want to be offensive to somebody when they hand me something. I want to know kind of what to expect, what could happen. I also remember that trip, we had never had like their like goat stew over rice thing.
It's a staple.
Which we have learned to love.
Yeah.
But that first trip, we went to I don't know what you call it, like a rally. Anyways, they had like to-go containers full of like food, and it was like our first time having that food.
Yeah.
And they gave us so much, but it was hot. It was so hot. We were outside and like, and so we already were feeling like the heat, and like we probably weren't drinking enough water, if we're honest. Like, and it was gross, and this food was hot, and we'd never seen it before. We didn't know what we were eating. And I just remember being like, I don't want to be rude, but like, I can't eat this.
Well, it was hot, and some of it is spicy too.
Yeah, and I don't really.
On top of it already being 100 whatever degrees and humid because it's the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so weird because now we know it's like a staple there, and like we're used to it, and I can eat it fine. But it was my first experience with it, and I just remember being like, I can't eat all this, and I don't want to be rude. And I'm pretty sure Bucky ate a plate and a half of it, just so we weren't rude, and it looked like I ate some of mine. But
that's my lot in life. If you are my partner on a mission trip, feel free. This is a service I provide. I will try to finish your plate so you can pretend you ate it.
Yes, he's really sweet about it. But like, also, we just didn't want to offend anyone. We didn't, and
everything was new. We were trying to build these friendships. We knew we were foreigners, and we didn't want to be, we wanted to be good guests and representatives of Christ and
back
the US.
then they didn't know, they hadn't had very many Americans.
Yeah, not there.
So they didn't know really what Americans like. Now if you go back, like, they know how to feed an American. So they will, and which is amazing that they go out of their way to like,
it really is. It's a sacrifice.
It is, yeah.
Because they've had to learn it, and they have to buy different stuff, and it's just a lot of love.
Religious treat, and they don't give you as big of portions. I think they thought, Americans are bigger, they eat a lot. Like,
Well, that's a stereotype, is that we eat a whole lot and our portions in restaurants are huge. And I hear that stereotype all over the world. But so many places I go, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
At home anyway.
Yeah.
They pile it up.
But I wonder if that's because we're American.
It could be,
they're
maybe,
trying.
yeah.
They're trying to cater to us because I don't think that they.
Pastor Lafleur does, though.
That's true. Well, and sometimes for them, they have the one meal a day,
and that's why I eat so much. Yeah,
yes,
that's
and we
true.
have like 3, 4.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever.
It's lunchtime. Pile it up. This is your meal.
This is your meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
What about you?
Okay, so the weirdest ever, I've told this story before, is the mint chicken jello in Ukraine. That made me deathly ill. I didn't die, but it made me feel like death for about a day and a half. And then, actually, I think the episode where I tell that story is probably called Mint Chicken Jello. It has it in the title, so go listen to that story. The next day, how I got better was the pastor I was staying with and the president of a Baptist seminary in Ukraine. We all went to a sauna together, which also was awkward of its, in its own. But you know what? That really worked. It made me feel so much better. Just sweating out. I don't know.
Gross.
It's probably a placebo effect, but you know what? It worked. I was totally better after that. I think the mint chicken jello was the weirdest meal, but also other stuff in Haiti. I think just the first time having some of that was just weird,
I think it'd be offensive if I said it was weird, but like
no, it's not.
It was just a new experience. Yeah,
for them.
Yeah.
And then I think that was the first time I've ever had just a whole fish. Scales, eyeballs, fins, everything. Now I've done that many, many times in many places, but that was the first time we went to the beach and they, it was fresh caught fish. I mean, probably the best, freshest you can get. But there was the whole thing and we didn't know how to eat it.
Mm-mm.
And so it was kind of funny. I was sitting there like, I'm not even really sure how to go.
I didn't even know how to start taking a bite. I forgot about that. Yeah. I probably put that out of my mind because it disturbed me. But
somebody had a lobster too.
That was another time where I was grateful that my husband was with me because I ate what I could, which was probably not much. And then I was like, hey, trade plates with me. Like,
yeah, there you go. One of the things that was so rich about that time and other times that we got to go to Haiti together was just, we kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were high school sweethearts. We got married in our young 20s and just we kind of discovered the world and adulthood and the world and other countries together. And so we had lots of new experiences together, and I really treasure that. And I think that really just helped us, become the couple that we are. But new experiences, scary experiences,
hurricanes
together. Oh yeah, the hurricanes together. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And one of our second trip to Haiti together. I don't know
which one, but it was Hurricane Gustav.
My dad was like, "Are you sure y'all want to go? There's going to be hurricanes." And we're like, "Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't be sending us if it was a problem. We'll be fine or whatever." Yeah, hurricane hit dead on where we were.
One day, perhaps, I'll write a book called "What Not to Do."
Yeah, maybe
on missions, because we learned lots of things
by doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, by doing the wrong things, and not that any were particularly bad or harmful. Just there's a good book called "When Helping Hurts." So some of that dynamic of things that we thought would be good, but really we were in the way, and it was for our experience and not really for the local people.
Yeah.
But also just naive things like that. Oh, there's a hurricane. You should still go. It all worked out. We have really cool stories.
We do.
We were very loved by our Haitian partners there that walked like 10 miles in the hurricane to bring our food, and because we were helpless and stuff like that. But
when helping hurts.
Yeah. We learned lots of things in those early years going to Haiti, and now there's a partnership that's been there over 15 years and is very strong, very well organized. But in the early days, it was just some friends with some Haitian friends and going back and forth, and it was.
And even then, like our Haitian friends, like it was all new and young
for them
was
too.
New for
everybody.
Yeah, nobody knew how to do this ministry thing and how to make how. And now, like, to see what God has done through just the faithfulness of those young people who are like, hey, let's build a relationship. Let's build something out of this is really amazing to see. we're not as involved as we used to be, which is kind of hard
With that
and
ministry,
sad with that
yeah.
ministry. But man, to see where it is and what God has done with it is just huge.
And then some of the kids that have grown up in the school that's a part of the ministry. Then we've sponsored a kid that we met our first time there, who's an adult now, and many of
Crazy.
the kids there now that have grown up, they're running the ministry locally.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool thing to see that. So speaking of ministries that started with just relationships, just some friends working together. IC started the same way. Over 50 years ago, Ben Meath was just a farmer out in West Texas and had a heart for Latino people and wanted to reach them for the gospel, sharing the gospel. And through relationships through his church and some river missionaries, and then going into Mexico and meeting pastors and meeting more pastors and just wanting to work with them to share the gospel. It just kept spreading and spreading and spreading all organically through these relationships. And now, 50 years later, we have this established ministry that does know what it's doing.
So cool.
So if you want to go on mission, if you have a heart for the world and for the kingdom, you can go with us. And we know what we're doing. And you don't have to know what you're doing, because we'll
Absolutely.
handle all the arrangements and planning and all of that stuff. And our local partners lead the charge on the field. So we don't have to figure out all those cultural things either, because we're just partnering with them and they already know. So that's pretty awesome. You go to internationalcommission.org/go, find a trip, sign up to go with us. We're going to just continue equipping and enabling everyone we can until everybody's had a chance to hear the gospel. And you can be part of it.